175 seat, J.C. Cunningham and G.B.R are the candidates. J.C. Cunningham is here tonight, and we will welcome him to the stage. Again, some of these districts have been redrawn, including District 175, which now, and J.C., I'm going to let you correct me if I've got it wrong, it includes part of Lowndes County, all of Brooks County, I believe, and a good portion of Thomas County as well in the new redrawn district, which is going to effect on January the 1st. So,
you're absolutely right.
J.C., thank you for being here. You have 3 minutes for your opening statement.
I was hoping I had someone beside me, but first of all, I just want to thank you, Chris, and thank the Home Builders Association and 105.9 for putting on this forum. But most of all, I'd just like to thank all the citizens for coming out. You know, one of the reasons I decided to run was because back in the summer of 2011, we found out that there was a group of people that wanted to consolidate the Valdosta and Lowndes school system. And I didn't think it was right. A lot of us didn't think it was right. And so I made a couple of phone calls, and a lot of us that were part of the Friends of Valdosta City Schools, we made calls to our legislators in Atlanta and asked them to intervene and to help us ensure that every voice in Lowndes County had an opportunity to speak during that process. And we didn't get any answers back from our legislators. As a matter of fact, my opponent, Amy Carter, who's the governor's floor leader, told us that the governor was too busy and could not help quell a situation that could potentially tear this community apart. I think it's very important that anyone that represents a body of people not get too big for their britches. I think it's very important that anyone who thinks they're going to represent a body of people realize that they are there to serve those people. My father always told me the definition of a leader was to first be able to serve. You know, our greatest leader in the history of man said he came to serve, not to be served. But I think our representatives have forgotten that they have to serve people of South Georgia. I think that we need legislators throughout South Georgia that will definitely articulate the values of South Georgia. Now, people always say that, and that's so easy to be said, but how do we do that? We do that by talking to the people that we represent. Just because you elect me as your next state representative doesn't mean I only represent the Democratic Party. When you, what does that mean? 30 seconds. When you can give us a rule. In closing, I want to represent Lowndes, Brooks, and Thomas because we need to ensure that we take South Georgia to Atlanta, not Atlanta to South Georgia. Okay.
Thank you, J.C. Our first question, I do want to say we did hear from Representative Carter. There was an event at Thomasville, which she had already scheduled to attend tonight. That's why she's not here. So just to we want to let you know that. J.C., the first question, again, you have a 1 minute time to respond to these questions.
Since I'm here by myself, I can't have a minute?
No, just your minute, I'm sorry. Nice try, though. I appreciate the ask.
Can't blame you, brother.
That's right, that's exactly right. Your first question, J.C. You've been very vocal about the changes that you would like to see made at the state level concerning education. Can you discuss the most important of these issues?
Well, the most important is we need to go back to budgeting public schools. You know, 11 years ago, we allocated 50% of the state budget to K through 12. Next fiscal budget will be 37.3%. We cannot continue, and since then, the population of children has increased over 460,000 students. We've lost over 4,000 teachers. We can't keep going that way. We can't, see, it's affecting South Georgia, but it's affecting all of Georgia. We have got to start funding public education, point blank. Now, we have found so many other programs to fund that have been wasteful. We found out they've been wasteful, and we need to get back to what we do. We need to take care of our most vital resources. That's our children.
Thank you very much. Your second question, you've also been quoted, JC, as saying that you don't feel that our current legislative contingent has done enough to bring or keep good jobs in South Georgia. If elected, what would you do to try to improve on that?
Well, first of all, I have said that, and I'm going to continue to say it. You know, the governor came out at the beginning of October and bragged about he's brought record growth of jobs to Georgia in 2012. And if he did, they didn't come to South Georgia. You know, I am tired of jobs not leaving south of the perimeter. You know, 25 industries came to Georgia in 2011, 2012, and not one of them came below Chris County. Our legislators need to be ensuring that we get our fair share of the pie. Point in case, Brooks County has lost 4 major industries in the last 20 years. Brooks County leads the state of Georgia in the most lost jobs in Georgia in the past 20 years. Those jobs affect Lowndes County and Thomas County. It affects revenue. Those people, because they're not working, because those jobs aren't there, are no longer coming to Walmart anymore. They're no longer coming to our mall. We have got to be more proactive.
Thank you. Our next question. You also said that you don't feel that the citizens of South Georgia are, quote, getting their fair share of money from the state. Since the Atlanta area has more voting power than other parts of the state, how could you change that?
Well, you know, that's where you need strong leadership. See, it's not going to change overnight. And if anybody tells you that any freshman legislator is going to change anything overnight, it's not going to happen. But what we have to do, see, for Georgia to thrive, it needs all parts of Georgia to thrive. See, Georgia doesn't realize, some of our folks in Atlanta doesn't realize that the reason Georgia is not thriving the way it is because South Georgia has been left behind. We have not done a good enough job to talk about the resources that we have in South Georgia. I don't know why we have nothing to be ashamed of. I mean, you know, we have the highway, we have the infrastructure, we definitely have the people, and you know, we have the proximity to 4 different states in a matter of an hour or 2 hours. I don't understand why we have to apologize about that. We need to go there, and we need to start talking about those things, and we need to talk about that more than we talk about Atlanta.
Thank you. One of the questions submitted from the audience tonight, JC, what would you do to help state employees? Insurance is increasing, pay raises are not being issued. What would you try to do to help address this problem?
You know, that is a very, very difficult thing, Chris. And I wish I had the answer to that. I'd be telling everyone here a fib if I said that. You know, I spoke to some folks yesterday about what we're going through, in a technical school where their insurance has gone up across the board. When we spoke to the folks in Atlanta about insurance, that's one of the reasons we're having problems with the state budget. We're really gonna have to sit down and right now we have these constraints on how going outside of the boundaries, state boundaries. We're gonna have to come up with some ideas, but to be honest with you, that is not anything that I have an answer to, except that we have to sit down and collectively, the Republican Party and the Democratic Party have to come together because it's going to be the well-being for the whole state.
That actually leads to our next question. Your last statement there, JC. You've talked a lot about unification in the legislature and the need for representatives of all parties to be willing to work together. Again, how could you affect that change, and what would it take to see that happen more in Atlanta?
You know, only thing that I could do, or one man could do, is inspire. I think that's the only thing we can do. And I think that we need to get out of this Republican and Democrat mentality. I'm so sick of it, I don't know what to do. I don't know who came up with the rule that because you're a Democrat, you can't sit down with a Republican and try to work some things out. I'm tired of this. And folks, you ought to be tired of it. You know, we had a representative that was a Democrat. And for 4 years, she voted Democrat. But as soon as she jumped parties, all of a sudden she was Republican. And she only voted across the board Republican. She never crossed the line one time. Well, what happened? When we're elected, we're no longer a Democrat or Republican. I just want you to know that. When you're elected to serve the people who elected you. And any Democrat thinks he's going to get elected by just the Democrat votes only, or a Republican thinks the only way they're going to get elected is by Republican votes only, then I have some...
Gotcha. All right. Our next question, Stacey, again, 1 minute response. What about your professional background and your experience makes you the best candidate to represent the people of District 175?
You know, I'm looking at so many faces out here, and I know so many of these folks out here, and I think what everyone knows that I have no lack of is passion. And I'm not scared of anything but God. And I think that's the attitude we need. I think that you know, we go to Atlanta and we're like a deer in headlights. And we forget, we get caught up in that hustle and bustle instead of remembering what our main focus should be. So I don't care about someone being mad at me. I don't care that someone doesn't like the fact that I'm proud of where I come from and where I stay. And so, but I also think in the same token that if you push where you're from and you believe it and you walk it and you talk it and you breathe it, it becomes contagious. And that's what we need. We need someone who's going to go to Atlanta and sleep, eat, and drink South Georgia.
Thank you, Jesse. Finally, you have 1 minute for any closing remarks.
Again, thank you, Home Builders Association and 105.9 for putting on this forum. In 18 days, you know, we're asking you guys to come out and vote for someone you maybe met 1 or 2 times or heard of. And what I'm asking you to do when you go to the poll these next 18 days is to truly ask yourself, have you been happy with the representation South Georgia has been getting? And if your answer is no, don't worry about going to the ballot looking for a Republican or a Democrat. Look for a person, or look for the ideas, and look for the heart and the drive of the person that wants to bring South Georgia back to the prominence it once had. I think I'm your man for that. I ask you your vote tomorrow, next Monday, next Tuesday, and on November the 6th. Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph.